In November 2022, 4 University of Idaho students were found murdered in their home, a crime that shook the quiet town of Moscow and drew national attention. The suspect, Bryan Kohberger, a PhD student studying the criminal mind. How did someone trained to understand crime become the focus of a high-profile investigation? Allegations of stalking, a devastated community. Was it a calculated act or a fatal mistake? Subscribe for the full story. Every detail, every angle. To understand the weight of this tragedy, we must first honor those whose lives were taken. These were not just victims of the Idaho student murders. They were real people with stories, dreams, and lives filled with purpose. Kaylee Goncalves and Madison Mogen had been inseparable since childhood. Soul sisters. Their bond was the kind that only decades of shared memories can forge. Kaylee was ambitious, funny, fiercely protective of those she loved. Madison, smart, compassionate, and magnetic, was her other half. The two were just weeks away from graduating from the University of Idaho, with Kaylee planning a move to Texas for a tech job. Zana Kernodle, vibrant and sharp-witted, was known for lighting up a room with her sarcasm and energy. She worked hard and loved harder. Her boyfriend, Ethan Chapin, was a triplet and athlete at the university. Kind, cheerful, and grounded, he was spending the night at Zana's place after a fun evening out. They weren't just names in a headline. They were sons, daughters, siblings, best friends. Their lives were stolen in a moment of unimaginable violence, and that loss continues to reverberate across the campus, the town of Moscow, and the entire nation. In the early morning hours of November 13, 2022, the quiet town of Moscow, Idaho, became the epicenter of a crime so shocking it sent ripples across the nation. At approximately 4:00 a.m., someone entered the off-campus residence at 1122 King Road, a home shared by 6 University of Idaho students. Between 4:00 and 4:25 a.m., 4 students, Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogen, Zana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin, were fatally stabbed, most while they were sleeping. The attack was vicious and appeared methodical. 2 other roommates were in the house during the murders, but were left physically unharmed. One of them later told police she witnessed a masked man clad in black, with bushy eyebrows, leaving through the sliding glass door, a detail that would later become central to the investigation. Despite this chilling encounter, it wasn't until around noon that a 911 call was placed, reporting an unconscious person. When officers arrived, they discovered what would be described as one of the most brutal mass killings in Idaho's history. In the days that followed, fear engulfed the community. There was no suspect, no murder weapon, and no signs of forced entry. Classes were cancelled, students fled town, parents demanded answers. Online, true crime forums exploded with speculation, while law enforcement remained tight-lipped. The silence only deepened the mystery. What really happened inside 1122 King Road that night? And how did the killer vanish without a trace? As fear and speculation swept across the quiet town of Moscow, Idaho, detectives were working tirelessly behind the scenes to find answers. With no suspect, no murder weapon, and a terrified community demanding justice, the clock was ticking. Then came a pivotal breakthrough. Surveillance cameras from nearby homes and businesses captured a white Hyundai Elantra circling the victim's neighborhood multiple times between 3:30 and 4:20 a.m., just moments before the estimated time of the killings. The footage became a cornerstone of the investigation. Police traced the vehicle to Bryan Kohberger, a 28-year-old criminology PhD student at Washington State University, just a few miles away in Pullman, Washington. As detectives dug deeper, more disturbing patterns emerged. The most critical piece of evidence: A knife sheath found near one victim contained male DNA, which investigators say matches Kohberger's through genealogical and direct testing. Investigators conducted a covert collection of trash from the Kohberger family home in Pennsylvania. A familial DNA match was made, tying the sheath directly to Bryan Kohberger. They also examined Kohberger's cell phone records. The data showed he had been in the area near the victim's home at least 12 times before the murders and suspiciously turned his phone off during the time of the killings. By December 30th, 2022, authorities were ready. After weeks of tracking, compiling, and cross-referencing evidence, Bryan Kohberger was arrested, ending a manhunt but beginning a legal and moral reckoning. But who is Bryan Kohberger? Born in Albrightsville, Pennsylvania, Bryan Christopher Kohberger grew up in the Poconos region in a quiet working-class family. Classmates remember him as introverted, awkward, and often isolated. Some say he was bullied in school, which may have contributed to his increasingly intense demeanor as he got older. In his late teens, Kohberger battled heroin addiction, a fact confirmed by friends and police records. But by his early 20s, he had turned his life around. He pursued a career in criminal justice, earning a bachelor's degree at DeSales University, followed by a master's in criminology. He then enrolled in a PhD program at Washington State University, just a few miles from where the University of Idaho student murders occurred. During his time at DeSales, Kohberger posted a now-deleted survey on Reddit, inviting ex-convicts to participate in a study about how emotions and psychological traits influence decision-making when committing a crime. This survey was reportedly part of his academic research. Former classmates described Kohberger as highly intelligent but emotionally detached. He often dominated class discussions and exhibited a disturbing fascination with the criminal mind. One peer noted that he spoke like he was observing people from the outside. On December 30th, 2022, Bryan Kohberger appeared in court for the first time, the same day he was arrested in Pennsylvania. His face was emotionless, his eyes blank. The silence in the courtroom was heavy. Viewers across the country watched in disbelief. This was the man accused of one of the most brutal mass killings in Idaho's history. Prosecutors painted a chilling picture of what they called calculated behavior. After the murders, they say Kohberger cleaned his white Hyundai Elantra meticulously, changed the license plates, and avoided using his phone during critical windows of time. But then came the twist. Bryan Kohberger pleaded not guilty to all charges. His legal team pushed back, arguing that the DNA evidence is limited, the surveillance circumstantial, and the motive still unclear. They insist the state's case is far from airtight. As pre-trial motions continue, the courtroom has become a battleground, not just for justice, but for truth. So now the nation asks, is Bryan Kohberger a cold, calculating criminal who thought he could outsmart the system? Or is he an innocent man, caught in a web of digital evidence, public panic, and prosecutorial pressure? The case ignited a media firestorm. Social media sleuths shared theories and dissected every new court filing. Some speculated Kohberger knew one of the victims. Others claimed he was inspired by incel ideology. Still others wondered, was this part of a disturbing personal fantasy? Amid the mounting theories, the prosecution revealed another chilling detail: online activity. Prosecutors intend to introduce evidence of Kohberger's digital footprint, including the purchase history of a car-bar knife and related items months before the murders. They argue this behavior demonstrates planning and premeditation, not a spontaneous act of violence. But amid the noise, one truth remained. 4 lives were lost, and the path to justice had only just begun. As of May 2025, Bryan Kohberger is still awaiting trial. Legal motions continue. The defense is challenging the admissibility of key DNA evidence, while prosecutors remain confident. The victims' families attend every hearing, fighting for justice, carrying their grief with grace. And the public? still watching, still waiting. There are still so many questions. What truly motivated Bryan Kohberger, if he's guilty? Why these 4 students? Was it obsession, arrogance, a dark desire to outsmart the system, and perhaps the most haunting question of all, what would have happened if he hadn't been caught? Kaylee, Madison, Zana, Ethan. We say their names not just to remember, but to remind ourselves that behind every headline is a human story. The Bryan Kohberger case continues to draw national attention as we await the next chapter in this chilling investigation. If this case has gripped you like it has so many others, let us know your thoughts in the comments. What questions do you still have? And if you want the latest updates as this story unfolds, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and join us as we continue the search for answers.